remember when we used to go off with Mulligan, and you weren't on there yet, and we went off somewhere and Lampy was on. And so we'd be sitting in back in the bus, and it would be like, I don't know, Dave Glenn and Frank and Kel and a bunch of people. And so Boris, the usual gang. And so Lampy says, yeah, what was Andy, how did he do in that? I said, oh yeah, it was great. I said, and I'd be telling these stories. I think it was Lampy. And I'd say, one time we were in France, and the kind of shit would happen. Andy hated to fly, so he'd always have to drink a whole quart of vodka and eat a whole bottle of Valiums. And then one time in Scandinavia, we got in a plane and half the seats faced one way and half the other, and he had to face backwards. He said, I can't face backwards. And he kind of puked.
For my lunch on a Swedish one.
Yeah. And then I said, one time we were in France, and we got on a small Air France to go from Paris to Nice or something, a little plane, and it was completely packed. And I said, Kaye and Fusco were on the band, and they were huge, and I said they were huge guys, so the steward boys, they were, and they were running around. So finally, because Kaye had to take care of Andy because he was always terrified, and so
we had to listen to Bird
Bobcat.
on the headphones.
Bobcat.
Yeah, we had to listen to
So he
Bird.
had to hold his hand every time we flew, and sometimes I would, but he liked him better.
Across the aisle.
Yeah, so they're sitting together like they always do, and the plane's ready to take off, and we're sitting there, and it's completely packed, and it's overweight, and they're all real nervous about it, and so that didn't do him any good, and me either. I was nervous too. So the guy comes in, he's looking around.
No, he came in and he said, too fat.
He says, you two.
Switch.
Yeah, he says, you two on the wings on this side. He says, you sit on that side and you sit on this side. So.
And now the Valium, so I asked the guy a serious question. I said, hold it. You mean to tell me that the fate of this plane depends upon me moving to that side?
Yes.
I said, I don't want anything to do with this phone.
Yeah, too bad. And so.
You remember the name of the plane? No. The Fokker.
Yeah.
The Fokker.
Yeah. And so I was telling this kind of shit to Lampy, and for a long time, Lampy thought I was kidding. And then Keller finally talked to him about it. He says, "Oh yeah, that's all true."
It's this fat one over here, and it's
and all of this kind of shit would happen. Oh, it was so great. I just loved it so much.
Now we're older, and more mature.
Yeah, much more mature.
Ross being such a funny guy, but he's got a funny story to tell you about what happened one time to his horn. We went to California, and we had an opportunity to visit the greatest trumpet maker in the country at the time, Dominic Calicchio, and depending on how he did at the track was how expensive his trumpets were. And apparently he hadn't done so well, because when I walked in, it was $500. So I ordered one. 2 weeks later, we came back to LA. I picked up my brand new, beautiful trumpet and played it on the first night. And Buddy looked over and he said, yeah, beautiful. So we went back to the motel after the gig. The next morning we got up and we were standing out in front of the motel waiting for the bus. And the bus driver thought he'd be funny and steered toward us as he pulled into the driveway of the hotel. So we all jumped back out of the way except my Calicchio trumpet. Yeah, I'm hip. So it looked like a Jackie Vernon trumpet that he had sat on a stool. Like this, it looked like a trumpet. Like this, like a razor blade. So I turned in the trumpet to the bus insurance company, and they refunded my $500. And I ordered another one, but by that time, I guess they weren't. Dominic must have left town because it came back a different horrible horn. So I gave up on that. But Buddy, for the next 2 weeks, I didn't have a trumpet. So every night we were playing, he had someone bring one from a college or a marching band. So for 2 weeks, I played the worst trumpets I've ever heard, and I had 5 solos each set. And that's my story.
Not even look over at him and laugh. Just look over at him.
But that was a great prop. There was a lot of love for a lot of laughs. That prop of that horn that Kaye smashed flat.
Anyway, I would just like to say that Ross and I actually used to do some bits, right? We used to do bits on the bus. And as Dave said, it was one of the ways we could keep ourselves sane and keep Buddy somewhat happy. But sometimes he would, there were times like the first year actually that we were there, Buddy had his Ferrari. And there's quite a story about the Ferrari. I don't know if I'm really capable of telling that one. But anyway, he drove the Ferrari, so he wasn't on the bus. So we had the front of the bus. We played cars. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice and relaxed. And then he had some financial troubles, and so the Ferrari actually was not in his name. It was in, at the time we had like a band manager called Leo Rocco. Leo Rocco. And so they were tight. Buddy and him, they were pretty tight. And so Buddy says, yeah, Leo, Buddy had to declare bankruptcy. So he says, Leo, could you sign for the car? And I can't put my name on it. And he says, yeah, no problem. I'll sign for it. So naturally, of course, time went on. They didn't stay friends, And so at one point, Buddy was beating up Leo, I guess, or whatever. And finally, I think Leo had his girlfriend out, or his wife out there, and she sold T-shirts and things like that. So one night, he was what they call crept. He crept, which means he was just gone. He didn't tell anybody. He took the Ferrari because it was his. It was in his name. And so Buddy gets up and his car's gone. And he wasn't happy yet. He really got crazy, and actually he wanted to, Mike knows better than I. Mike was in the room with him when he was actually figuring out how he was going to kill him, find him and actually kill him. And I think he knew some guys that maybe could, And, but he couldn't really find Leo, and so the car was gone. Well, of course, now he's on the bus. Because I guess he got a Mercedes. He got a car after that. Got a Mercedes, and he didn't like it. So he drove a little bit. He said, I'm going to get on the bus. So he gets on the bus. And now the whole front of the bus, of course, is his. No more card table. We're in the back. We got cases. We're playing cards in the back. And most of the time, he really enjoyed that band. He loved it. So most of the time it was fun, and he would be up there. He'd get high and smile. Everything's great, whatever you want to do. But if it was a bad night and he didn't feel happy, well, then you couldn't be happy either. I mean, if he was not happy, if he wasn't happy, if I'm not happy, nobody's happy. So I never forget Stepton used to, when Buddy wasn't on the bus, everybody picked good seats up. It was good to be up front then, So Stepton's right up in the front. So now Buddy's back. Now Stepton's right behind him. His seat is right behind him. He can't change seats. What you have, everybody's got their seats, that's it. So he's behind him. So Stepton would get a 6-pack or like a 12-pack or whatever. Rolling Rock, and he would just drink it and just fall asleep sitting up straight, just like this, right behind Buddy. No matter what happened, he was just there like this. And he stayed that way for the whole time. But one night, Buddy was really mad, and it's got to be quiet, so we're on the bus. So Ross is in the back. He's got some pistachios. I think it's pistachio nuts. Sunflower seeds, So he's back there, gets sunflower seeds, making a little, like a snap, like a tiny little snap. A tiny little snap. The bus is going real fast. There's a lot of noise, but there's some noise from the engine of the bus, But in the back, there's this little snap, So all of a sudden, and Buddy's, we think he's sleeping, I said, who's eating peanuts? Who's got nuts? He wakes up, and Russ is like, he says this, and that was it, Put the snaps away. That's kind of what the second year was like. So naturally, a lot of us left shortly. Months after that, a year on the bus without Buddy was one thing, and a year on the bus with him was another thing. So at some point, you had to get off the bus.
Since the thing of athletics came up, again, when I first joined the band, I was 29 and I was in pretty good shape. I played at Syracuse and I stayed in sports. And when Buddy saw me, he was, again, really checking me out. So he would he'd try to see if I had a good sense of humor. So the first week he'd say, hey, big fella, make sure you stand in the middle of the bus because I'm afraid I don't want to pick up. And there's a lot of little guys here. There's only a couple of tough guys here, me and you. I said, and I had never seen anything like this in my life. So I was so nervous when I first joined the band. And I met them in Dayton, Ohio, and I saw this mad scramble on the bus because somebody had left, and now they were moving their chairs, and everybody was trying to get a further away from Buddy. So I ended up, John Mosca says, I'll fix you up. So he put me right in front of Buddy. And so a couple of nights into the gig, and I was really polite to him, and I went up to him the first night. I said, geez, it's really an honor to play in your band, and I'm so glad to be here. He says, okay, champ, blah, 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 blah. So one night, this manager, Steve Peck, started to get him going. And they thought it was about 2 or 3 in the morning and thought everybody was sleeping. So I smelled the pot light up, and Buddy was trying to relax. And hey, we had a pretty good night tonight, huh? And Peck says, yeah, it was all right. Have you checked out that new, have you checked out that new alto player that's on the band? So Buddy says, what's his name? I think it's Fusco, something like that, Andy Fusco. So Peck, so the manager goes, he's a pretty big guy, isn't he? Buddy goes, yeah, he's big. So what? He says, well, I understand that he was a college football player and he lifts weights and, oh yeah? So, so now I can tell, now they've caught my attention. So, and Buddy's going, well, you know, so what? He seems a nice fella, you know, seems to play okay, nobody hates him. So, but now Peck, I can tell, now the manager, now he's high. So he's telling Buddy, he says, but what would you do, Buddy? He says, what would you do if, you know, when you went into your tirades and you went at this guy, suppose he didn't buy all your bullshit. So Buddy said, yeah, he'll buy it. Now Buddy's getting worked up, and now he hates my guts. I was just sleeping for about 40 miles. I had my Burger King, and I was minding my own business. So now he says, well, the hell with him, too. And I'll kick his big ass. And that'll show all these other little punks around here. And Peck goes, well, what method would you use? He's a very big fella. He says, well, I'll use Taekwondo. First I'll go in, I'll knock his eyes out, and then I'll go down his throat, try to pull out his larynx, and then I'll go into his crotch. And I said, I've been here too, and you're planning my death on his hand. So I said, I gotta end this. So I quickly popped up from my seat, and I walked right by him. I said, hi, fellas. And Buddy goes, hello, big guy. Nice solo tonight. I was with Buddy for 5 years, and I think Buddy found me a little bit challenging because I was much bigger than him. I was a college football player, and when I came on the band, I weighed about 290, and I was in pretty decent shape. And I didn't smoke pot, so right away that caught his eye. So, and it was like I was an alien. So, and all I did. And he was trying to see if I had a good sense of humor because he was checking me out. So he go, you like a low-class high, like beer. I watch you drinking that beer. I said, yeah, I guess I'm low-class. I'll say anything to keep the job. And I like to bowl, and I love to drink beer. He says, well, let me tell you something, man. The high-class high is pot. And I said, well, Buddy, I've never smoked pot, and I'm 29 years old. He says, well, you know what? Why don't you try today? So, you were with me. Yes, I was. So now, Buddy takes out this 7-foot joint. And by this time, I'll do anything to please him because I really wanted the job. I had about $11 in my wallet. So, and I said, Jesus Christ, here I am. I'm going to become a drug addict to play second alto on this. And Buddy didn't know that I was the nervous type. So now, there was this baritone player in the band, Turk Morrow, who didn't like me because I insulted him once, and I said, you ought to learn, you know, the dot after the note means that you hold it half the vowel. So I think Turk was going to try to get even with me for saying that. So anyway, Turk said, I got something really good for him. And I didn't know what anything was about pot. I'd never tried it in college, so he says, I got some really smooth, it's called Thai stick. And I found out it goes about $1,000 a joint. So now they give me this joint, and I start smoking it. Chuck was sitting next to me, and Marcus was sitting next to me. And Marcus's first comment was, he says, just looking at him, I don't think that LSD is for him. So all of a sudden, Marcus and Chuck go, how you feeling? I said, you know, there's something happening. And I said, did you say how? Or did you say, what are you feeling? Or did you say, thus? Or did you say, then you were feeling? Did you? So now Turk goes, I know how to fix this. Smoke some more. So Turk gave me another 7-foot joint. And then I stood up and yelled that there was a truck coming right for the bus and that somebody better fly me in a medevac because my arm is bleeding. So now Buddy's starting to get nervous. And Buddy goes, hey, who got him high? And Marcus was like the middleman. He goes, Buddy, I must say it was you that insisted that he joined the upper echelon of highs here. He said, well, listen, at the next truck stop, get him a case of beer, give him a Valium, and tell him to shut up. So that cured me of high.